Hey, this is actress Carissa Lee Staples, and you're listening to the Oh Brother Podcast.
Welcome to the Oh Brother Podcast with hosts Dan and Mike Smith, brothers from the same mother with different opinions on movies, TV, video games, and more, plus celebrity interviews. Get ready, get set. It's time for the Oh Brother Podcast. Welcome back to the Oh Brother Podcast. My brother from the same mother. Say, I throw you off because we have the intro in the intro.
Yeah, like I was just kind of sitting here. Like,
you were waiting for the old "Welcome to the Oh Brother Podcast."
Right.
It's just, you're not getting that anymore. But before we dive into the show this week, I want to say that for those of you that are not currently following us, make sure that you do. And the easiest way to find all things Oh Brother is to go out to our official website, which is OHB as in brother podcast.com. That's ohbpodcast.com. We're also very active on Instagram. So Instagram's a really easy way to follow us, which is just at OHB Podcast. We also have a link in our Instagram bio that leads you to our YouTube channel, all of the podcasts, the blog that we've got up on our website, and all those things. So that's another easy way to find us. June 6th, 2022, when you get this episode. Now, Mike, there is something significant about June 6th. We should acknowledge it at least. You want to acknowledge the date, the significance?
That is our dad's birthday.
That's right.
Who is no longer with us. And it's a tough day, every year.
Yeah.
Especially, here. Our grandmother's birthday would have been yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is always a tough time, the beginning of June.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're getting this, I'm actually going to be there with you.
Right.
I'll be in Boston at that point on June 6th. So, and hopefully we'll be able to put out another episode recorded there.
Is that when are you flying out of here?
You see that, folks? How he wants to get right to when I'm departing?
No, it's funny.
How soon are you leaving?
You bring it up, but I noticed a little trick you do when we're on the phone and you don't want to talk to me.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'll say, hey, did you see this? Save it for the show.
Oh, true.
That's what you say to me. Save it for the show.
I do that.
I'm like, save what for the show?
I do.
And then,
yeah.
I tried it on you, and it didn't work.
Yeah. You know what it is? I think there's something about when I'm in the car and we're recording an episode that it just seems like there's a lot of organic sort of material that comes up more so than if we're both like in the studio. But yeah, you're right. I do that a lot to you. A lot to talk about today.
Right.
I want to talk about Kenobi. We're going to talk about, kind of more generally what's streaming, what we're watching, movies that maybe we've been watching. And then I got another topic of interest that I don't even know why this popped into my brain, but I wanted to talk to you about it. And you're one of the perfect people to talk to about this. So that'll be later in the show. But
okay.
First off, so we're going to talk about Kenobi.
Yeah.
Now as of the airing of this episode of our podcast, episode 3 would have been out by now. Now, I haven't watched it yet. Have you?
No.
Okay.
I always wait till nighttime.
That's true. So, episode 3 is where we're at with Kenobi, but again, we can't comment aside from the first 2. So, what's your initial impression on it?
Well, there was a great 4-minute intro.
Yeah, the 4-minute recap.
Yeah, that was really well done. And it got me excited. I was already excited for the series. I really like Ewan McGregor. Thought he was great on Fargo. I like everything he does pretty much. But to add Hayden Christensen into the thing, and to know that I cannot wait for another face-off between Vader and Obi-Wan. It's just, that's what I'm waiting on.
Yeah, that's obviously probably the most highly anticipated aspect of the whole thing. And you're right, that recap was great. It's just over 4 minutes long. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was very well edited. And
I did too.
If you were deciding to jump into this series cold, I think it was helpful in that regard. And then, of course, yeah, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I always want to bring up, whenever I see part 3, the ending, where they're going at it and they're battling.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor just, oh man, he just puts in a performance that knocks it out of the park. And that's making that, I always dismiss the prequels, but that one keeps moving up my ladder.
You talk about Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just, that performance is just gives, I get tingles when I watch it.
Yeah. You were my brother, Anakin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It really is a great performance.
You were the chosen one.
Well, and that's why
I failed you, Anakin. I failed you.
We don't need the whole scene, but they just concluded Star Wars Celebration out in Anaheim.
Yeah,
and Ewan was there, Hayden was there, like anybody in Star Wars universe was there, and one of the storylines that come out of this was the fact that, the prequels have now, they're at a point now where there's such a strong, solid fan base for the prequels, more so than there was when the films first came out. They were they were pretty heavily criticized when they first came out. I've been a pretty strong critic of Phantom Menace over the years, but they have aged well. They have aged well. Yes. And so haven't the actors, quite frankly. I mean, it was one of the things. Yeah, it's one of the things I sat there and thought to myself, they're very fortunate to have these actors still around, still healthy. They still look good, the whole bit. Because, I mean, let's face it, you couldn't do it otherwise. No. And they have, Star Wars has run into that over the past several years with some of the sequel trilogy and the missed opportunity they had with the big three, Han, Luke, and Leia, and now when Carrie Fisher died and all of that.
They didn't expect it to be a problem.
They didn't, but it just goes to show you, so it's such a blessing, I feel, as a fan of the franchise, that we can even see this play out is just awesome. Now, you mentioned the Revenge of the Sith, or Trots, as some of the hardcore fans call it. What do they call it? Trots. The Revenge of the Sith. They do that with all the films. Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, like Tross, The Rise of Skywalker. Anyways.
Yeah.
So this Kenobi series, which is streaming on Disney Plus, is 10 years after the events of the Revenge of the Sith. So for those that may not be familiar with where we are in the timeline, that's where we are. And it even says that in the opening of the Kenobi series. Now, what I liked about it is it kicks off this thing after the 4-minute recap, which was action-packed and builds this momentum. Man, Kenobi starts, you're not even a minute into it, and it's just like action right away, because what you see is something that, again, a lot of the hardcore fans would be familiar with. It was this Order 66, the Emperor ordering, execute Order 66, which was the killing of all the Jedi. And man, it was a fairly short sequence, but really well done. And that actress that played the Jedi in the beginning, trying to fight off all of the clone troopers and everything, man, that was really, I was pumped.
It took on Luke, it was kind of shades of Luke with the green saber and the whole thing.
Exactly, yeah. So that's really well done. And like I said, immediately they plop you into the action. Now, this was a part 1 and part 2. They were both streamed on May 27th, so we got a double dose. And, in the first part, you basically have Kenobi. We're seeing, okay, where is he at now? It's 10 years on. He's kind of down and out. He's very sort of, how would you describe him in the state that he's in?
Yeah, he's questioning himself, his powers, whether or not he's still a Jedi anymore. He's working out in some, I don't know, like meat grinding place. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, he's working at a butcher shop.
Yeah,
on Tatooine.
Yeah.
What it is there's a big some sort of Star Wars creature that died in the sand in Tatooine,
Right.
And they're basically harvesting the meat from this thing. Which, looking at the size of it, they'll be there for the next 15 years
Yeah.
harvesting the meat. But
he trucks to work every day. He's trying to act like an ordinary Joe and fit in. But when there's a call to action, which happens in the second episode, and we won't talk about it, just to say that he has to test his powers, and he's very concerned and very doubtful.
Well, and you're right to not give anything away. What we all know, anybody that's followed the franchise, we know that he does jump back into the fray. But it's what's the impetus behind that is what we didn't know, and so that's what you discover in part 2 or episode 2. So now, I think for the most part, from what I've seen and heard, the fan reaction has been very positive.
I've heard some negatives. And
that's what I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's sad that this even has to be commented on, but I wanted to talk about it because I really just came upon the story yesterday. I think is really when it started to break, was over the last day or two, which is the actress that plays Reva, who is one of these Inquisitors.
Yes.
Okay. It's an African-American woman. Her name is Moses Ingram. That's the actress's name. She was actually, I don't know if you know this, dude. She played Lady Macduff in The Tragedy of Macbeth, which we did a review on a while back.
Oh, wow.
She was actually in that film. So, but no surprise, because we've been dealing with this for actually a number of years in Star Wars, which is this bile, this racist vitriol and hatred that comes out all the time. I don't know if these people are doing it because they're just ignorant and they're just purely racist, or if it's that and they want to try to get a rise out of people like us who are not. But she ended up responding online through her social media accounts to a lot of this, and she basically shared a couple of the messages she received, which were just disgusting.
I can't imagine.
Well, if people are using the N-word, and she said, there's hundreds of these that I'm getting, hundreds of these.
Wow. And,
I had sent her a message that she probably would never see, but just to sort of, paint it with a different brush to say, that's not how the majority of the fan base or the human race for that matter feel, Well,
look at Rose Tico.
Exactly. So Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose Tico, went through the same thing and actually left social media for a while.
Yeah.
And was getting therapy as a result of it.
She basically got written out of the last movie.
Well, let's continue on the list. John Boyega, same thing, who played Finn,
That's right?
And
he's very unhappy.
Take it back even further. We go to the prequel trilogy, which we were talking about, and Ahmed Best, who played everybody's favorite character, Jar Jar Binks. Now, I'm as little a fan of that character as anyone else.
Right.
But, I never would have gone to the extent of abusing this this actor, this individual, the way that he was abused and hated on for years because people, oh, it ruined the film and it ruined the franchise and this and that. And he really suffered mentally as a result of that. And I'm sure physically. Oh, yeah. I mean, to the point where he came out years later and talked about his struggle with depression and contemplating suicide. And like, it was really, really serious. Now, since that time, Star Wars Celebration back in, I think the last one was in 2018 in Chicago. Mm-hmm. He was, of course, now embraced back into, the Star Wars community. Mm-hmm. But he had to go through a significant trauma as a result. In fact, he's come out and commented in support of Moses Ingram,
right,
in this most current controversy that's out there.
There's a terrible infection going on through society here in America right now, and I don't know what to say other than it's just disgusting.
Yeah, and
to see all these white supremacist groups gaining. I mean, we just had a school shooting. Mm-hmm. And we don't even know why yet. And they really dropped the ball, it seems. That keeps becoming a terrible issue. But between guns and racism, we've got some issues here at home that need to be addressed.
Well, and social media, right? So now you add on to that.
Social media should be, should be regulated.
Yeah.
The fact that what's his name, Elon Musk, is now going to be in charge of Twitter is frightful.
Well, but that the jury's still out on that. Like we can't fully comment on that yet because nothing's really happened yet. So
yeah, but he's kind of tipped his hand a little bit,
maybe. But again, I think it's a little too early to get down that road. But I will say, we're talking about art, and it's always something like in the eye of the beholder, right? That kind of attitude but now we're at a point in this society where it's, I'm right and you're wrong. If you don't agree with me, you're wrong. That's the end of the story. Right. There's no debate. There's no sharing of opinions or perspectives. In fact, I kind of thought it was not funny, but I had to pause and say, do these same people because what they're saying about this character is, well, first of all, they're saying just some very racist, hateful, bigoted things, but they're also speaking about the character itself. And, it's how does she have force powers in one scene and not in another? And like really getting into the nerd zone of it all. And
she really has one of the best sequences in the series so far, where she's on these
which I don't think we can talk about.
Yeah, I can just say that.
Yeah,
she's on these rooftops, and there's a sequence. It's pretty long,
but here's the interesting,
maybe the best thing so far.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed her character. I have no problem with her character. No. Now, do I have issues with some of the story surrounding it? Yeah, but okay, big deal. I could poke holes in every film in the franchise.
Yeah, let me tell you one other complaint I'm hearing is the Inquisitors, which you mentioned, are these characters that basically go from town to town and they're looking for Jedi.
Yeah.
And I guess they were in one of the animated.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
People are complaining about the shape of their heads.
Exactly. And this is why
they were drawn characters.
I want to give a shout out to Jimmy Mack, who's one of the hosts of the Rebel Force Radio podcast that, I talk about a lot on the show because I'm a fan of the show. And he started a hashtag not that long ago that says, just enjoy Star Wars. Can we just enjoy Star Wars? You know? And it's kind of ironic because you think about a lot of these people that have an issue with the character that this actress is playing and saying it's a weak character and all of this, and her role in the Empire and all that. And I'm thinking, do they realize that Darth Vader essentially was voiced by an African-American male actor all these years. Like, it's just so insane how people think and the things that they believe. But I feel bad, just not only as a fan of the franchise, but just as a human being, that this woman felt she needed to come out and even respond to this.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's going to take us, it's going to segue into our next segment pretty well.
You know what's interesting? Let me make this last comment about this and then we'll move on. I wanted to say, because I saw somebody respond on, I think it was Twitter, on a thread related to this controversy. And they pointed out, you know, Star Wars came out on their social media channel and in support of her, right? And they said it was something to the effect of, if you feel the need or desire to come out and be nasty, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, we resist, was the ending of the statement, okay? Right. And somebody responded, okay, yeah, like you resisted in China. So I had to dive into the rabbit hole and figure out what this was about. Well, apparently some posters for some films that are within the Disney franchise now, for example, some of the sequel trilogy posters, and Black Panther was another one. Two examples that were tweeted out. One was the poster for The Last Jedi, or one of the sequel films. And Finn, the character Finn, is in the poster. Well, in China, where they're not so welcoming to the African-American community, they literally Disney removed him from the poster and covered him up with like a spaceship or something. And I even saw the posters side by side. Another example was Black Panther, as I mentioned. And the actor, God help me out, because we just lost him not that long ago, Chadwick Boseman. Yeah. Rest in peace. Great actor. Right. He's in the poster in the Black Panther outfit that he had. Well, they put like his helmet on him and covered him up. So this goes back. We could probably trace this back. In fact, there's commentary, dude, about George Lucas and some of his co-opting of things that people would consider to be racist and offensive, let's say.
When I was watching Kenobi, I kept thinking Clint Eastwood. That's all I saw. Right. Kenobi was kind of like Clint Eastwood in this.
Yeah, but that's that one character, right? Where some people, to the point I just made about Lucas, is, again, this is just some of the things I've read recently, is like the Sand People, right? They, which of course we had a whole origin story there with the Book of Boba Fett series. There's people who, make claims that the look and what that race of people in Star Wars represent is actually offensive to certain groups of people, certain tribes, and it runs very, very deep. Yeah. But anyways, so let's move away from the negativity. Yeah, let's jump. You wanted to segue.
Yeah, let's jump into streaming. Yeah, another streaming show that just came out, right?
Well, you want to talk about Ricky Gervais, right?
Yeah.
So Ricky Gervais
on Netflix.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais has a new stand-up special on Netflix called Supernature.
Right.
And it's his first special. I think he said 7-8 years?
I don't think it's been that long. I think he did one in 2018.
All right, well, that was Humanity, I think, is the last one that he did. So this is on Netflix. This also, speaking of controversy, had some controversy in the press because of some of the jokes that he did that commented on, transgender and all of this, right? So I thought it was a great special. I thought it was very
did too. And
most of his work. Yeah, most of his work is smart. It's well thought out. There's a message behind it. And to me, this was no different.
And he also he opens this one so well, where he tells you the construction of one of these jokes, that he's making fun of people.
That is rooted in what? Irony.
Irony.
He says.
And he makes fun of everyone. There is nobody safe. And he mentions about there used to be a safe harbor where you could say whatever, but you can't. And he said, one of the most clever things he said was 10 years ago, we couldn't have thought some of this crap up. That
That's
people
right.
would be complaining about.
That's right.
But like you said, he really used irony. He said, see, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be ironic. It's going to cause you to laugh, and it's going to be funny. And then you're going to look back and say, oh, I see how he did that.
You're going to laugh at the wrong thing because you know what the right thing is.
Correct.
Is what he says.
Then he leads right into a joke that's constructed with irony. And he says, you see, I got you. You're with me.
Yeah. It was so brilliant. And he's one of the smartest comedians we have. And it's very much, to me, carrying on the legacy of someone like Carlin, who we talked about on the last episode.
Yeah. When you watch him, you have to think of Carlin.
Right. It's just so intellectual. And I mean, my girlfriend and I just sat and laughed out loud throughout almost the whole entire thing. It was so funny.
I wasn't sure. I was going to be, I figured you watched it with her. I wasn't sure how she would take it.
Yeah. And I think it appeals to her because she is, very intellectual with things like that. So, she's, so I think that's why it appeals to her. His English sensibility, I think, speaks to her. And so, I mean, she was laughing out loud. We were both in tears at one point.
I mean, if you're somebody who's offended by, if you know Ricky Gervais, if you don't know him by now, you probably never will.
One of my favorite bits was literally the opening where it's him off stage introducing himself, and he says, ladies and gentlemen, a man who doesn't need to be doing this. Ricky Gervais.
He's constantly talking about how he's rich.
Yes.
Like he'll make a joke and he'll say, so I'm in my mansion. Right. And he does it in such a subtle way. It's like a dig at you.
It is.
Like, you're not as good as me because I'm rich.
So
like he said, I could go to the doctor every day. I'm rich.
Yeah.
And he talked about going to the doctor and getting a proctology exam. And he's like, here, I'll give you the money. You tell me what you got to do.
Yeah, he's doing the money move. Yeah, like the making it rain move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you enjoy comedy that makes you think, this is right up your alley. So
and think George Carlin and there is some really harsh language in it.
Oh yeah.
And if you've seen another Ricky Gervais special, it's, to be expected. But if you're not a fan of that kind of thing, stay away.
Yeah. Yeah. Ricky Gervais Supernature on Netflix. So that's streaming now. So check that out.
Yeah.
I think we're caught up on Barry, right? You're now caught up on Barry. Okay. Now Barry airs I'm doing this more for you than anybody else, but Barry airs Sundays. Sunday nights on HBO Max.
I had an excuse last Sunday because the Celtics were in a game 7, which they won, and are now going to, and you're going to be here.
Yes.
For at least a couple of the games. I don't know if you're going to watch them, but I hope you will.
Yeah.
But it's kind of late for you. You're a early to bed guy. But
earlier than you.
The Celtics,
Yeah, but as I've said, NBA is at the bottom of my list.
For me, even though the lifestyle, and I'm not really into that, the way, talk about the chains and really, kind of throwing it in your face that I'm rich and
all the endorsement deals.
Right. And the fact that they play a game.
Right.
That I used to play every single day, probably twice a day for free.
Mm-hmm.
And they get paid these millions and have these really stupid complaints usually. But this should be a good series, I think.
Is there anything else you wanted to say about Barry or anything else that's streaming?
Well, the only thing, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to give anything away, but just I keep saying they back themselves into the corner, but then they haven't figured out how they're going to get out of the corner.
Right. Are you less critical now after the last episode?
Well, I thought the last episode was one of the better ones.
Mm-hmm.
But did you get my email?
I did.
And I think I know how they're going to back out of the season.
Okay.
Based on that email. But I don't want to talk about it all. Otherwise, it's a great show. It's really, did we give the premise of the show? It's a hitman.
Yeah, remember you busted my chops for about 20 minutes?
Yeah. A hitman that wants to be an actor. And that's a silly premise. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. It's very short.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's definitely dark humor because it's, the performances are great. The actors are great.
Yes.
You get some drama in there. You get comedy.
But you do laugh at things that should be horrifying.
Yeah, but there's also some of those Breaking Bad type moments where it's very like startling things that happen that you don't expect.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on from Barry, we can't talk about Saul because that's on hiatus right now for the mid-season finale, and then
till
July, right? I did want to mention this. So moving into movies for a minute, more specifically documentaries, because you'll appreciate this. So my girlfriend and I happened to watch. Well, no, I was talking to her the other day, and she said that she started watching For All Mankind, and so I said, "Oh yeah, okay," and she was like, yeah, I've tried a couple of times and I just can't get into it. So I said, geez, I'm shocked. She said, yeah, the second episode, I said, wait a second. What do you mean episode?
Well, it turns out thinking of the TV
she was
version.
Thinking of the streaming series, which has nothing. So anyways, we sort of clarified that. And then we both sat and watched it, the actual space documentary For All Mankind, which is,
right,
as you know, is a Criterion collection.
Which is coming out in 4K in about a month.
I don't know how they can make it any better.
I don't either.
Because it's stunning. Now, For All Mankind, for those that don't know, so this is a film, it's a documentary film that chronicles basically the Apollo missions to the moon between like 68 and 72, somewhere in that area. There were, I think the documentary covers about 9 of the flights, but so because one thing I don't think I picked up on it as much until this time watching it with her, which was, this is a mashup of the different trips to the moon.
Yeah.
I don't know why it seemed more apparent to me this time than ever before, but
and you really should watch with subtitles because they switch characters a lot and missions a lot, and it helps you.
That's exactly right. So that's a good, that's a helpful point to make. But this is, I feel confident in saying, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. It's the best space documentary I've ever seen still to this day.
Yeah. And, I told you when they did The Godfather and they did it in 4K, I went right to the extras first. Mm-hmm. And they had the same, how they do that, how they make a film and they take the Blu-ray and upgrade it to 4K.
Clean it up, right, restore it. Mm-hmm.
So I went to watch that first, and I'm like, oh my God, they didn't do anything. They just did the same process. Yeah. And I felt really cheated. And then I realized that was just a documentary from the Blu-ray set that they included. Mm-hmm. So they did a new one. where they showed the restoration from Blu-ray. Because I remember when it came out on Blu-ray, I thought it was the best restored movie I've seen. Mm-hmm. Well, wait till you see it on 4K. And they literally say it can't go, 8K, whatever. We can't go any better than this.
Yeah.
This is the best it will ever be. So enjoy. And I'm dying to see For All Mankind, which you just talked about, because I can't imagine. It's like watching 2001.
Mm-hmm. Now, I before I forget, For All Mankind, you can also see that on HBO Max.
Oh, good. I'm glad you pointed that out, because before it was only Criterion. That was it.
Yeah, and it is the Criterion presentation of it.
Yes.
So one more thing movie-wise or movie-related I wanted to share, then I wanted to move into this other topic, was thanks to you, I've added the Batman into my digital collection, the newest iteration with Robert Pattinson, and there's some great extras on that. And so I don't know if you've had a chance to dive into those yet, but
not yet.
For those of you that were a fan of the film, or maybe even somewhat critical like you, some of the featurettes on that set are really, really nice. They're very informative and well done. For example, I told you the Batmobile chase with Batman and the Penguin is just, the behind the scenes and how they created that chase is just mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. It's mind-blowing. So check that out for those of you that maybe haven't delved into that yet. I think it's worth a look.
I did start it, but I just watched maybe, 20 minutes. And I said to you, I put on the subtitles, and it was almost like watching a different movie for me, because I couldn't hear Robert Pattinson in the theater very well. So maybe I'll come out with a different verdict. I don't know. So right now, the first 20 minutes, it didn't change anything, but I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll have to see next time we get on mic. You can give me your take. So I don't know. This last thing I want to talk about, I don't know how it entered my mind in the last couple of days, but I wanted to talk about the evolution of handheld video games.
Okay.
All right. And I can't think of anybody better.
Guy.
Exactly. Now, so what I did was said, you know what? Okay, how far back can I go with this? I got to trace this back. And one of the first things that popped into my head was, and you got to tell me who developed these games and sold them at the time, but it was the handheld football.
Yes. I think it was Magnavox. I don't know why I'm saying that. Yeah. I don't know why I'm saying that. I might be totally wrong, but I think it was.
That doesn't sound right. Can you Google that?
I would say I chucked my phone.
Oh, did you? I was going to say a 70s handheld, football. It was literally just
bleep, 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 bleep.
Yeah, exactly. And they were just lights, lights.
And you wanted to get into one lane and just keep hitting the button
and
to run into the end zone.
Right. Now
that was how it started.
That's about as far back as I can go. Can you trace it beyond that?
Well, I think at the same time the Game & Watch, from Nintendo came out.
That's so funny because I wrote that down. I had a Mario Watch.
Yes.
But the football definitely predated that.
Oh, it definitely did.
Yeah.
And it gets confusing in my head between handheld and, home systems. But the first significant one that was like a real system was really the Game Boy in '89.
The Game Boy. Yeah, the Game Boy. Right.
And that was like playing, actual games that you would play. They were just as good as the games you were playing on your home console. Mm-hmm. And I remember buying it at Toys R Us. It was $89. They had 4 games out. And the problem was it wasn't backlit. and it was hard to see. You had to play it in the light.
That's right.
Or you had troubles. Now in Japan, when I went over there, they sold backlit versions. Why they didn't sell those here, I'll never know. But it was only like $10 more, and you put in batteries, you had a backlight, it looked 10 times better.
What was the one with the surfing that when I was
that was the
living with
Lynx. The Atari Lynx. Yeah.
That was a cool system.
Yeah, California Games is the game you're thinking of.
Yes.
And it had a surfing thing where you went up and tried to ride the wave as far as you could.
I did pretty good at that. Wasn't there a decathlon in that too or something?
Yeah, there was like, what's the thing with the bag? You kick the bag. What's that called?
Kick bag? I don't know.
You got a little bean bag and you kick it with your feet. Hacky sack was on it.
Was it really?
It was. Yeah.
That's crazy. I actually have my
games.
I still have my hacky sacks from like junior high and high school. Now, real quick side note that I wanted to clear up a note from the last episode, because I texted you this, but I don't think you realized what I was referencing because it was way after the fact. On the last episode, we were talking about video games and kind of going down memory lane, and we were talking about some of the original Atari ones. I said, what was the one with the bombs that would come down and this and that? Well, It was Kaboom is what I was trying to think of. Remember Kaboom?
Yeah.
Because it was with the paddle.
That. Yeah. That's right. We should have got that. I did get the paddle, right?
Yeah. So Atari Lynx, but you're right. Game Boy was the game changer.
That was. And to this day, Nintendo has dominated the market since then.
Well, because now what is the top hand? Is it the Switch?
Well, technically, because the Switch, I never play the Switch handheld.
But it really is intended as a handheld device.
It's intended as both.
Yeah.
It's got a dock and you play it on TV.
Right.
Or you can just pull it out of the dock and play it, handheld. So it's pretty unique that they were able to accomplish that. And everybody else always tries to copy them, but they just don't get it right. But going back, because I skipped a couple of systems, was the Game Boy came out, and then they had this, what they call Play It Loud series. And all it was Game Boys in different colors. Like you could get a black Game Boy or a red or a yellow. And believe it or not, Dan, that shot the sales through the roof, changing the casing.
It's like iPhones.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Right.
Then they took it a next step and it became the Game Boy Color. Still not backlit. So you got all this beautiful color.
And then finally...
The great thing is you could plug it in. You get this device and you could plug it into your Super Nintendo and play your Game Boy Color games on the TV. So that's kind of, you think all the way back then in the early 90s, that's when the Switch started to make its, think about that. That's the Switch. So the second system was the Game Gear by Sega. Remember?
No, but I did catch it. You think you're getting off the hook with that accent, but I caught it. Sega.
What did I say?
See, this is what we do. This is what when you grow up in New England, this is what happens, right? You add R's where there are no R's,
and you put,
and then
A's
you try to, it's crazy. So, anyways,
R's.
So Sega, what is it?
Game Gear.
Yeah, that's vaguely
and this
familiar.
Was backlit. It was color. You could play Sonic games. It was a pretty nice little system. The problem was the battery life was horrible. You'd burn through batteries in an hour. And so unless you were plugged into it really, I don't consider that a mobile device if you got to plug it into the wall.
Yeah.
Because you can only walk, as long as that cord is. So It was Game Boy, then Sega took a whack at it. Then there was, I believe, the Turbo Graphics. And I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that.
Do you remember the console, the Turbo Graphics 16?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
It was a home console, and then they tried to do it really nice. Like it was a $200. You could watch TV. You could watch TV on the Game Gear as well. You put in this little thing and you could get a TV tuner. You know, you could get maybe one channel.
Yeah.
So, and then Sony, let's see, did I skip any?
Well, you know what we're not talking about? We should mention the handheld minis, which you still have those, you know, the replicas of the full-size arcade games like Frogger and Miss Pac-Man and Crazy
Coleco.
Yeah, because those count, I would say.
Yes.
You know.
And you should see, well, when you come this week, wait till you see the next iteration past those. Because I'm going to sell all my Colecos. I've got, 15, 16 of them.
For those of you listening, if you're in the market, you can reach out to Mike on Instagram.
I'm going to put them on eBay, and they all work. And I've got one, you don't know what a Raspberry Pi is, but it's got a Raspberry Pi in it, which can play thousands of games. So instead of playing the bleep, 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 you can play the actual game Frogger on the little Coleco now. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I guess I would call that a handheld system. I bought you like every one of them.
Yeah, I think I got them all at the same Christmas. It was like
I gave you like a whole bunch of them.
And Crazy Climber, that one always stood out because it looked so different.
Yeah, that wasn't done by Coleco.
That must be why, right?
Probably one of the reasons, but yeah, those were I can look to my right and I have about 5 of them on a shelf.
I don't know that this was a handheld, but this was another great game that just popped into my mind. Probably something to do with the Crazy Climber, but Spider-Man. There's a certain version of Spider-Man. I don't know what system it was on. This is back in the day when we played it. I'm not talking about whatever current versions are out there now, but
yeah, there's
do you know what
really
I'm talking about?
I'm trying to think.
It was pretty. Was there a handheld with it?
I don't know if there was. Yeah. There was. It was just kind of a one-off.
I might be making that up. Yeah.
But I think you might be thinking of an Atari 2600 game that you could shoot. You could shoot web, and it was really cool. You should see what they're doing with the PlayStation 5. I mean, it's the best game for the system, I think. I haven't played much on it, but after the Turbo Graphics,
we don't need the whole genealogy.
Yeah, it's just but basically the 3DS became. It started. Now I saw this before it went public. I went to San Diego Comic-Con, and Nintendo showed off the 2DS, and Sony showed off the PSP, the PlayStation Portable. And they both looked pretty cool. You couldn't play the Nintendo one. They only had it on a wall. You could play the Atari one. It was a little, you got to meet the guy that did the voice. Because all of a sudden you heard, oh, it's a Mario, come on in. And you went into this tent, and there was the guy that does Mario's voice for 50 years or whatever it is. And he introduces the game, and you got to play a few games. Then it became like the 3DS, where it was in 3D. Pretty, some of those games are pretty.
Well, if you just, for me, it was kind of look at how far it's come.
Yeah.
If you think back to that football game to now,
right?
It's incredible, the technology and the realism that comes with it. But I think people are probably getting a little tired of hearing from us.
Yeah.
So I think we would like to hear from you. So I want to know, Mike and I both want to know, what are you guys playing? Those of you that are into video games and tapping into your inner child, what games are hot for you right now? What are you streaming? What are you streaming that maybe you can turn us on to? Because I need another series to binge.
Yeah,
I'm in need.
we gonna go to the movies while you're here?
Yeah, well, we got to see Maverick. We got to see.
I want to see Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. I'm glad you brought that up because I just finally saw the original Doctor Strange.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we can see that. Got to see the Secrets of Dumbledore, which is out, but that's on, I think, HBO or Disney or something already. It's already streaming.
I think it's just one of those, cinema from home or whatever, right?
No, because she just watched it.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, so it's
on what?
It was like HBO
was it
Max or something.
Oh, cool.
No, I don't think so. You have to check it out.
Maybe we'll get it for free.
So hit us up on social media. You can drop us comments on Instagram at OHB Podcast.
Tell me what systems I missed, because
what systems?
The 3DS was the kind of the pinnacle. Sony came out with the Sony Vita, and they just couldn't get it off the ground.
See, I knew I couldn't reel you back in once I put this topic out there, but drop us comments on the YouTube video too, and let us know. You can respond there as well, or drop us an email. Just let us know in the comments. So, I do want to say too, as we close this out, based on the way we started it, we talk about Kenobi and all that controversy, and I'm sitting here thinking it's Pride Month, and it just kind of reminds me of like trying to send out a little bit more goodness, and there is goodness in humanity despite some of this ugliness that we have to deal with. So, we started off on kind of a heavy note, but I
remember when Disney really went, all out and had a Pride parade, a Pride Day, and there were, the colors, and Chapek kind of screwed the pooch on that lately.
It's
so hopefully they'll make up for it.
Well, it's a reminder to me of just the importance of inclusivity, and and that's something I think we're trying to do here is, kind of welcoming. Look, if you don't like the show, we welcome that feedback too. If you love the show, we want to hear from you, and tell us what you like about the show. So anyways, all right. Anything else for the good of the order?
I had something, but it popped out of my head, so couldn't have been that good.
Yeah. At least it didn't pop out of your mouth.
Like everything else.
Like everything else. All right. Well, next time you hear us, we'll probably be coming to you, maybe even live from Boston. Who knows?
Maybe.
But it's been another episode of the Oh Brother Podcast. Been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
You've reached producer and cinematographer Johnny Durango. I'm unavailable right now because I'm busy listening to the Oh Brother Podcast.